Thank you very much, Paul. It's a pleasure to be mentioned in the same breath as Bill Gates, an ambition of mine. Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? Everyone had lunch? Are the energy levels high? I had the pleasure of sitting at the back of this auditorium as we were listening to the panel discussion, and I was watching all of you very, very keenly, so think carefully before you answer my next question. Whilst that panel discussion was taking place, can I ask any of you that did not read a message or send a message or take a phone call, please put your hand up. I can see 2 hands. So I think that's a massive example of actually a challenge and an opportunity that faces us today, which is making decisions. Technology has given us the opportunity to do things that just a few years ago we couldn't. And yes, most of us during an incredibly interesting panel discussion are multitasking. Yesterday evening I was watching Game of Thrones in bed, and at the same time I was sending BBM messages and I was reading the BBC to find out about the Ukraine. No wonder then that I'm an expert on none of those subjects. I can't remember what happened in Game of Thrones. I'm not exactly sure what's happening in the Ukraine, and the person I was messaging got a message that I was supposed to send to someone else. So I'm really a good example of someone who perhaps doesn't use technology as well as we should. So we have a decision, and my presentation today, and I'm just going to press the clicker, it will come up. Okay, is talking to you about a brave new world. It's talking about the decisions that we have and how we embrace the opportunities and how we get it right. So firstly, before I start talking about that, I just want to ask you all, which of you here either work for a startup operation that has less than 10 people in it, or are thinking about setting up your own business perhaps for the first time in the next 12 months? Cool. So quite a lot of you. It's an amazingly entrepreneurial place, Dubai. I was driving here today from my offices, and I was driving past the Burj Khalifa, and there's a wonderful plasma screen, and it told me that Wi-Fi was available free of charge in the Sheikh Mohammed Boulevard. Well, I haven't seen that in many capital cities anywhere else in the world. That must cost quite a lot to set that up. Why does Dubai do that? Is it so that people can send their presentations faster? Well, I would suggest that one of the reasons that Sheikh Mohammed has so wisely done that is because of the message that it sends out. And so when company owners are thinking about coming to the Middle East, or perhaps debating, should I go to Singapore or should I come to Dubai, they see things like that, and it sends a message out. So, if you are thinking about setting up your company, Paul very kindly said that we've helped over 3,000 set up. You may have a brilliant idea. You may have the right team in place, but it's an awful lot more than that. Someone came to my office yesterday who used to work for me, and she said, Neil, I've set up my business. I know exactly how to do it, and she was a fantastic salesperson for me. And I sent out an email to my potential leads, and no one replied. I don't understand why. I thought I had the best product. She found out 12 hours later that everyone was receiving the email, but their reply function wasn't working. That's an example of technology. So to start with, rather than me pontificating about Virtuzone, I want to share some of the experiences of some of our customers and talk about some of the people that have set up already. So the first lady who set up, if I can just ask us to move forward on the slide, is a lady called Christina who set up Oh My Glamour. And we asked her what's important in connectivity. You can move forward. I have a virtual clicker, by the way. She's at the back of the room. Okay, when you see a picture of a lady, that's Christina. So what did she need in connectivity? She simply needed mobility. I saw a lot of flashing red lights in the room. That's the first thing. And I'm delighted to be partnered with Etisalat, and Etisalat help provide that thing in our pocket that enables us to communicate with our customers. I'm going to state a lot of obvious things in today's presentation, but obvious things need to be at the forefront of your mind. And one of the things that will set you apart from your competitors is being able to reply faster. When a consumer sees your ad on Google or on the radio or in SME Advisor, the faster you respond to their request, the more likely you are to get their business. And obviously mobility helps that, and Christina mentioned that. The next customer that's set up through Virtuzone is a company called Smart HR. Smart HR is a thriving HR consultancy, okay? And what they're doing, we've all heard of these things. I'm lucky enough to actually have my son in the audience today who's on holiday, and he's telling me about products that I'd never heard of. We've all, I'm sure, heard of WhatsApp. We've all heard of Viber and Skype. But how many of us actually use them in our business, and how do we integrate them? Smart HR have done that, and thus have saved a huge amount of money. And because I'm mentioning HR, it also allows me to say something else, which is certainly when I set up the first of my businesses, and I think now into double figures, and I made an awful lot of mistakes. So learn from that. The first few that I set up, the furthest thing from my mind was that I would have an HR manager at the beginning. I'm going to have a salesperson. Maybe I'm going to have a marketeer. Okay, but HR, what does it allow you to do? And I'm not here to preach just about HR, but it's an example of how we can use technology to get an early step towards being more competitive. What it enables us to do is, by having an HR function in your startup organization, you can recruit better people, because those people are keener to come to an organization that has these things in place. You can communicate to your staff better, and thus they'll be more motivated. So HR is now something that is available on the cloud. It's available to small companies, whereas previously that wasn't the case. On my next slide, it's a one-man operation, Rupert Chesman. He deals in premium video production, massive amounts of data every day, 2 terabyte drivers, etc., etc., etc. Now, he uses Vimeo and Hightail, again, things that we've maybe come across. But I encourage you, before you start your business, and what, by the way, really impresses me about every single person in this room is you've made the deliberate decision to come here to educate yourself. You might think that that's a really simple step, but just by doing that, you've shown the desire to learn, the desire to improve. And I do digress, but does anybody here know how much WhatsApp was bought by Facebook for? Quite a lot, the answer is. And what's WhatsApp's profit at the moment? 0. Okay? So they're doing something right, okay? And we're not quite sure what it is. One of the things that they did right is listen to people like John Merrigan, who was talking earlier about how to structure their company and how to have the right foundations. John came into my company and advised me, actually, and I think a few words of advice that he gave me are probably, in 1 or 2 years, going to add a multiplier of 10 to the value of my company. So what you're doing is absolutely right. Please take the time, don't jump in, but think about how you can use these things and make those decisions. And the next company, Easy Truck, is a really good example of that. Easy Truck is an award-winning storage and removals company that was set up by a husband and wife in Dubai a couple of years ago. Okay, what they've done is they've put together a number of products. I actually got my notes here. Quote Roller, which is for proposals. They use, obviously, Facebook. They use Right Signature for online contracts. and Capule for online CRM. Now, what he did very cleverly, this guy didn't develop any software himself, he didn't program anything himself, but he put them together into a bespoke package for removals and storage business. And now he's got a product which he can franchise and he can regionalize across the whole of the Gulf and beyond. So it's very, very simple decisions. It's using the technology that is there and thinking how you can apply it to your industry. Another brilliant success of ours is a fitness company, Fitness Direct. 4 years ago, there were 3 employees. They've now got 165 and a turnover of 20 million dirhams, just in fitness. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm constantly trying to find ways of looking younger, taller, and more intelligent, failing most of the time, but trying. And when you want to go and find that new method, you want to be dealing with a company that is leading edge, okay? The brand is so very important. So Fitness Direct use products. They partner with brands that we understand, powerful brands that make them able to communicate with their customers faster, more interactively, just as we were hearing from Randa earlier. So that is so important. So that's some examples of companies that have set up through Virtuzone that have achieved success by using different parts of technology. Now I want to talk to you about the first 10 days of setup, the mindset, and in a difficult challenge, what you would need to prioritize. Okay, and the first thing that you need to prioritize, which we've already spoken about, is mobility. Okay, now one of the things that I want to talk about here is one of my pet hates: bottlenecks. There's nothing worse than bottlenecks. There's nothing worse than avoidable situations where something is sitting on a desk and not moving forward to the next stage. In my business, where hopefully I'm going to be helping some of you set up companies, what you don't want to be talking to me and listening to me. You want to be running your business. You want your bank account, you want your mobile phone, you want to have your email and your storage and so on up and running. So if I can find a way of doing that a day faster for you, of you spending an hour less in my office, then I think that you'll be a happy customer. So mobility is absolutely so important to that. So when you're setting up your company, how can you get to that, and how can you choose the right solution? Because there's an awful lot available out there. The second thing that I would choose to ask you to think about is your website, okay? It's the door that people come into to view your business. And I'm going to talk to you now about one of my businesses that nearly made me a billionaire and instead cost me a couple of million. It's a company called Mumtaz. It was an online nightlife portal. I nearly got it right. Unfortunately, I remember spending $150,000 on building my website, and I didn't build it quite right. I didn't choose the right partner, and I wasn't technical. John told us you can't be an entrepreneur, a managing director, and a technician. Well, I thought I could, and I couldn't, and I spent $150,000 that I may as well have stood over the toilet and thrown those dirham notes into the toilet. Okay, so a couple of days ago, we helped a customer build a very standard but very presentable and easy to use website for 7,000 dirhams. That's our in-house support team helping a customer. So that was through partnership with Google, which we avail to people. Get your website up and running. You may be an absolute expert in your business. I had a meeting this morning with someone who's brilliant but doesn't believe in websites. And as such, I'm going to represent him and I'm going to make loads of money from his knowledge. So I'd like to thank him for not having a website because it gave me an opportunity. Don't give the same to me, but go and do it yourself. If you've got a website, when you start to build it, before you even build it, be thinking about how people are going to find your website. And that's the next part. It's online analytics. So previously, we would start to build our site and be thinking purely about, does it have the right picture that represents my fitness business or whatever. Now, when you're writing the text for your website, you're already thinking about how you can show yourself to be an expert in that area, how Google will recognize you as being popular and linked in to other customers. So be thinking about AdWords, be thinking about the community. This is a shameless punt for my own business, but we've partnered with Google so that if you set up a business through us, you're being given by Google an AdWords voucher so that you're able to have a couple of $100 free of promoting your own business. Now, a lot of people would set up their business and not use AdWords for the first 6 months. So it's something that helps Google, but it also helps you. So that's using the community to do things right. Okay, next thing, getting on the cloud. I remember about 5 years ago, someone in my villa explaining to me that there would be a cloud somewhere in the roof of my villa, which I really didn't understand. Now I think we're all comfortable with it, even if we don't quite know how it works. I can absolutely assure you that over the next few months, that's going to go on massively. And if you don't use it, you're going to set yourself at a massive disadvantage. When you're a small company, when you're starting, your costs are high and your revenues are lower than they're going to be. You're competing probably against companies that have been set up for some significant time. They have big offices, they have reception, etc., etc. So you need to achieve the same level of service as them with much less money. How do you do that? It's using the cloud in so many cases to allow yourself to do that, and it's spending a bit of time thinking about it. And here I would say to you, again, when I was setting up one of my businesses, I had a bit of money in my pocket and I wanted the best accounting solution. And by best in those days, I thought it was the most expensive. It was very complex and I had millions of buttons and functions. But I didn't have time to understand it. My staff didn't understand it. They didn't adopt it. So your technology is only as good as your team members are at adopting it. So use the right thing for you. In our case, for example, we implemented Salesforce, which is much easier than many CRM modules to implement. It demands a smaller team of consultants, and it's enabled us to have, very importantly, a 360-degree view of our customers. Lots of things that we used to make mistakes on, like duplicating, typing things in. My business is very process and form heavy, so we've removed massively amount of duplication and human error. And whisper this quietly in your startup organization, but this sort of technology can enable you in many cases to replace staff with automation. And that's a really important thing. It's not about saving salary bills, but you as managers, you might be a brilliant manager, but the challenge, it's easy to manage 3 people, it's easy to manage 10 people. As soon as you get to having perhaps a second office or having 15 people, your management time is split between those 15 people. So however good you are, there's too much multitasking going on. So technology can actually allow that and make you much, much more efficient. Okay. Next, I want to talk to you about day 5 of setting up your business and what you should be thinking about. And that is what we call the IT minefield. Okay? It's very in vogue to talk about outsourcing, and I'm going to give you a good example why outsourcing is important. When I set up Virtuzone, I put in 2 huge servers. I had 3 ISDN lines costing me a significant amount of money. My data was transferring between two of my offices very, very fast indeed. And then, our offices were in JBR at the Walk. 3 floors above my office, someone left their washing machine on, and there was a leak. And it leaked into my server room, and so all of the money that I had spent on this magnificent system went into the washing machine. Okay? You don't need to spend all this money. Etisalat has these wonderful data centers that you can rent a very small amount of and have a much better backed up system. Okay? That's the advantage of outsourcing. But when you do outsource, choose the right partner. Don't rush into the first one that you see, because the first one that you see, he may be a very impressive salesperson, but is he or she available to you when you need them? Because you know you'll have a problem at 5 o'clock on a Thursday evening. These are the challenges of owning your own business. So make sure that you partner with someone who understands exactly what your challenges are and is as close to, and this is again the wonderful thing, you can outsource, but have it outsourced so that it's almost an extension of your own company. Day 6, an obvious one, the right telecoms package. That's such an easy statement to make. There are so many offers available to us, and you've got to go out and dig for it. It would be wonderful if it was handed on a silver platter to you, but that's not always the case. We've recently had added a service to our offering such that someone who is coming in from Mumbai or London or Moscow and setting up a company could have a company, have a bank account, have a mobile phone, and have, even though they're a one-man band traveling around the GCC, have a 04 number answered by a receptionist for them, and that they can make calls from as well, giving that locality. Now, let me ask you, how many times have you had an SMS or a missed call from +32? Or whatever. If you do, you're like, where the hell's +32 from? I've no idea. And I bet 8 out of 10 times you don't call them back. So as a business based in Dubai, you need to build on your strengths. You need to use that locality of your business and find solutions that allow you to do that. Okay. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is collaboration tools. I gave some examples with Easy Truck earlier. Okay, it's using tools, putting them together, working smartly, just as the team members of your company need to communicate together, so do the products. I think a really good example of this is Google and the raft of services that they offer. Again, when someone sets up a business, you want to be focusing on your nursery, for example, not on the technology behind it, not on whether the emails are working. But it's easy to assume that these things will work because in your large company that you used to work for, everything just kind of happened and you didn't need to question how. Now you're a business owner, you do, and you need to find things that work together. I heard so much about social media, and that's day 8, which is harnessing social media. And I'm going to give you an example that we use that is amazingly powerful. And also, I think, talk to you about the future, which is, very often I'm seeing a trend of products that are used by our children and by our younger friends in a social environment that are now very much adopted by business. I suppose Facebook is an example that would have been hyper relevant a couple of years ago, and things are changing now. So Instagram, which is something that we would associate with our social life but not with business, is that going to change? Is that going to be something that you can use from a business point of view later? We, through our Salesforce system, have something called HubSpot. And what that does, which I find really, really interesting, is it enables us to take several very interesting parts of our business, our prospect list, our website, our landing pages, any social media communication that's going on about our business, and bring them together and make them work together so that we know what our customers want. We know, for example, that a customer that we've sent an email to telling them about our new telephone answering service, we know, did they open the email? How many times did they open the email? Did they see the communication on Facebook? And as such, if we were to call them, we're calling them with a much more relevant message so that they're much more likely to receive it. We're all having so many things thrown at us on a daily basis, so many SMSs, so many calls from property companies. So we want to unclutter our lives. And if you can help do that as a business, then you're going to be received in so much more of a positive way. Okay, day 9, get the most from the apps that are available there. And I mentioned the Easy Truck example several times. I'm so impressed by this guy. I've got this relatively big organization with IT experts and marketing experts, and yet the owner of Easy Truck keeps on coming up with things that I haven't heard of. And he does that by coming to events like this, reading online, and simply having an inquisitive mind and not just dipping his toe in, but focusing. Okay, and I think that is so important. So if I'd mention a few to you, if any of these are relevant to your business, go and Google them and find out about them later. Expensify, collating your business expenses. High-rise, organizing everything, notes, emails, sales leads. And MailChimp, which, trust me, will make any emails that you send out a lot nicer to read and less intrusive. And Shopify, which is an online shopping cart. So there's so many out there which are great. Go and look for them. Instead of watching Game of Thrones whilst you're reading the BBC site, do a little bit of research into these things. I feel like John Merrigan came up here and added this slide to my presentation because it's talking about compliance and security. And as annoying as it is to admit that he was totally right, these are the things which you have to sometimes rein in your entrepreneurial desire. Entrepreneurs want to make things happen tomorrow, and their energy is what makes businesses possible and turns ideas into reality, and that's great, okay? But the danger is that you build things too fast. You don't spend enough time making sure that the foundations are absolutely right. In a previous event that I was talking about, I was saying the importance of actually getting audited accounts without paying for an accountant from day one and overloading your business with expenses. So it's getting that foundation right, because you never know when you're going to want a loan to grow your business further, and you need to show the people that are lending you that money that you have the necessary things in place. And as we were hearing earlier, a couple of years later, when perhaps you're looking at an exit or a partial exit, to show that you've got these things in place will make the new investors so much more comfortable and secure that they're looking into your business, because your house is in order, because you may be leaving to put your feet up on the beach, but everything is in place. It no longer needs you. Make yourself replaceable. That sounds a weird thing to do, but if you've done it successfully, you've succeeded. So, that's the first 10 days. We've set up over 3,000 companies, and based on the last couple of months where we've had record numbers of companies setting up with us, I think that the Middle East and Dubai are in for a frenetic period of unfortunately for us, much more traffic on the Sheikh Zayed Road. But fortunately for us, that means more people to spend money on the businesses that you guys are thinking of setting up. What I encourage you and implore you to do, you made the effort to come here, and you've been very, very kind to to listen to me and not spend too long BBMing whilst I've been talking, okay? Do not be content with having an average business. There's some people in this room who are going to be first adopters of some of the things that I've spoken about. There's some people that are going to take 3 products or 3 ideas, put them together with a little bit of magic dust, and we're going to be reading about your company in 6 months' time in SME Advisor, okay? And there's going to be people reading that, and there's going to be people in cafes talking about your business, saying, how did they do that? Such a simple thing. And that's absolutely correct. It is simple, but it's the magic of how you put it together. And the way you will is by making the conscious decision that you're going to get this absolutely right. So I wish all of you that are thinking of setting up your business the very best of luck. You're getting a lot of support from CPI, from some of the partners that have spoken over here, and from the UAE itself. It's a great environment to do that. So take this message. You've got a great, just by being here, you've raised your chances of succeeding already. Embrace some of these messages, and you'll make a success of it. So good luck, and thank you very much.
Thank you.